Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome back once again to our lecture series on the glories of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastacha Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we're continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 91. So last week we began our discussions on Krishna's favorite plant, the Tulsi plant, or the Tulsi tree, as she is sometimes referred to, and we will continue discussing her glories in this lecture. We began last week's lecture by explaining that the Tulsi plant in this world is an expansion of Devi in the spiritual world. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his 8 prayers to Devi, writes in text 7, "They who are learned in the Sattvata Tantra glorify you. You are Krishna's pastime potency. The Tulsi plant is your form in the world of men. O Vrinda, I bow down to your lotus feet." We also discussed in detail how Srila Prabhupada very much appreciated Tulsi and established her worship in the Western world. In the beginning, he actually gave the specific mantras for worshipping Tulsi Devi. It's written that for a mantra to be effective, it must be given by the Guru. Padma Purana states, "Sampradaya vihinaye mantras te nishpala mata." A mantra must be received from a bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession. Otherwise, it will not produce the desired effect. So, in a letter dated April 7th, 1970, Srila Prabhupada, again, wrote to my god sister Govindadasi as follows. "I am giving herewith 3 mantras for Tulsi Devi as follows. Number 1, Vrindayai Tulasi Devyai, Priyayai Ke Shavaya Cha, Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi, Satyavatya Namo Namaha." We all know that mantra. "I offer my repeated obeisances unto Vrinda, Srimati Tulsi Devi, who is very dear to Lord Keshava, Krishna. O Goddess, you bestow devotional service to Krishna and possess the highest truth." Then number 2, Prabhupada says, "The following mantra should be chanted for picking Tulsi leaves and manjaris from Tulsi." Now, of course, we don't chant this mantra when we're worshipping Tulsi Devi, but this mantra is specifically for those who are picking her leaves and her manjaris for using in Krishna's service. Tulasi amrita janmashi sada tvam keshava priya keshavartvam chinmoyi tam varada bhava srobhane. O Tulsi Devi, you were born from nectar, and you are always very dear to Lord Keshava. Now, in order to worship Lord Keshava, I am collecting your leaves and manjaris. Please bestow your mercy upon me. And then number 3, we know this, the mantra for circumambulating the Tulsi tree is Yani kani chapapani brahmahatya dikani cha tani tani panashanti padakshina pade pade. By the circumambulation of Srimati Tulsi Devi, all the sins that one may have committed are destroyed at every step, even the sin of killing a brahmana. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. So it's very clear from Guru and Shastra that there are great benefits, immense benefits from worshipping Tulsi Devi. In this regard, I found a special verse in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which we quoted a lot in our last lecture, 9:155. Ananya darshana pratar, ye pashyanti tapodana, aho ratra kritam papam, tat sanat praharanti te. O sage, whose wealth is austerity, they who see Srimati Tulsi Devi when they first open their eyes in the morning, are free from all the sins of their days and nights. Now it appears from this verse that sleeping at night near to a Tulsi plant is very beneficial, so when you wake up you can see her. And here's another verse in that connection. It's also from the Hari Bhakti Vilas 9:158. Tulasi kanane yashtu muhurtam api vishramet janma koti kritat papan muchite nata samthaya. A person who, for even a moment, rests in a Tulsi forest becomes freed from the sins of 10 million births. Of this there is no doubt. Now, there's yet another verse in Hari Bhakti Vilas 9:115. Hitva tirtha sahasrati sarvan api shilo chayan tulasi ka nane nityam kalo tishtati keshava. This is a nice one. In Kali Yuga, the Lord of the universe is not pleased with anything other than a Tulsi Devi forest. In the stage of Kali, Lord Keshava disregards thousands of holy places while eternally residing in a forest of Tulsi Devi plants. Wow. A Tulsi forest. This morning I was trying to think if I've ever seen or heard of a Tulsi forest, when I remembered a pastime of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where many of you know he was searching for the authorized birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip for a long time actually. And one day he looked out of a window in his home in Godruma, where he saw a bright light coming from a forest of Tulsi plants some distance away. He took this as a sign that it could be the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And sure enough, when he took Jagannath Das Babaji there in a basket, because he was so old he couldn't walk, Jagannath Das Babaji jumped out of the basket and began dancing in ecstasy, calling out, "This is the birthplace of Nimai Pandit. This is the birthplace of Nimai Pandit." So we move on. There's a number of specific characteristics of Tulsi Devi. Regarding her leaves, there are actually two bona fide varieties of Tulsi Devi. One is Rama Tulsi Devi, the other is Krishna Tulsi Devi, with different colored leaves. They're known in botanical terms as Osimum Shanktam, which means Rama Tulsi, and Osimum Krishna, which means Shaim or Krishna Tulsi. Now, Shastra confirms this, actually in the Vishnu Rahasya, quoted again in Hari Bhakti Vilas 7.271, where it's stated, Krishna Vapyata Va Krishna Tulasi Krishna Balaba Sita Vapyata Va Krishna Dvadasi Balaba Hare. All kinds of Tulsi Devi, whether black or green, are dear to Krishna, just as Dvadasi of the waxing and waning moon are also dear to him. But later, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it also mentions that of the two, the black and the green versions of Tulsi, the green one with green leaves is most dear. It's actually a very, very interesting verse. It even explains why there are two different versions of Tulsi. Here it is, Hari Bhakti Vilas 7.278, quoting Padma Purana. The verse describes her in her form as Vrinda Devi, because we know synonymous. Tulsi Devi is an expansion of Vrinda Devi. So, Satyam Priti Karam Vakyam Kopas Tasya Tu Tamashaha Bhava Dvayam Hara Chattam Yat Tad Varna Dvayam Yabut. Pleasing words spoken by Vrinda Devi are certainly in the mode of goodness, and her wrath is in the mode of ignorance. According to these two qualities of Vrinda, Lord Hari displays two different moods. This is the reason that Tulsi Devi has two different colors. Although blackish Tulsi Devi is certainly dear to Krishna, green Srimati Tulsi Devi is especially dear to him. It's right there in Shastra, Hare Bhakti Vilas. Now, regarding these leaves, and we must also mention the manjaris, the manjari buds of Tulsi Devi. There are unlimited verses describing them. I had to sift through many verses to select a few for this class. But there are unlimited verses describing them, as well as the benefits of using them in the Lord's service. For example, in the Skanda Purana 6, chapter 243, verses 58 to 60, it said, Therefore, one should bathe Lord Hari in his form of Shalagram Shila, with scented water and adorned with Tulsi Devis, as well as manjaris smeared with sandalwood paste. By doing so, one fulfills all his desires. And it goes on. In the first leaf, there is Lord Brahma, and in the second one, Lord Shiva stays. In the manjari itself, Lord Vishnu is present. These three always remain in her leaves. Intelligent people should collect her auspicious manjaris along with these two kinds of leaves. Quite detailed, but interesting. Love is in the details. Hari Bhakti Vilas 990 also quotes the Agastya Samhita, wherein it is said, Shalagram Shila Toyam Tulasi Dala Vashitam Yepi Bhante Punas Tesam Stanya Panam Na Vidyate. The charanamrita of the Shalagram Shila is full of fragrance because it contains Tulsi Devi's leaves. Those who drink it will no longer experience birth in this material world and ever again have to drink another mother's breast milk. I was reading in The Harmonist the other day, again, we explained in a few classes earlier, a publication put out regularly by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, wherein it's described how Srila Prabhupada's sister, Bhavatarini Dasi, we all knew her as Pishima, she cured her son of cholera during a cholera epidemic in Calcutta sometime in the 1930s, simply by giving him the charanamrita of the Lord mixed with Tulsi leaves. I mentioned that in The Harmonist. She cured him of cholera with the charanamrita, the bathwater of the Lord, mixed with Tulsi leaves. Now, in the South Indian version of Mukunda Malastotra, which contains 60 mantras, the current BBT version, which is based on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sanskrit edition published in 1895, consists of 53 mantras. But in the South Indian version, there's an interesting shloka, number 5, in this regard about the charanamrita of the Lord. Shri Govinda Padam Bhoja Madhuno Mahad Adbhutam Yat Payino Na Muyanti Yad Apayina. I love it. The liquor distilled from Lord Govinda's lotus feet is most amazing. One who drinks that liquor becomes free from intoxication, whereas one who refrains from drinking it becomes intoxicated by a material illusion. I want to recite that again. The liquor distilled from Lord Govinda's lotus feet is most amazing. One who drinks that liquor becomes free from intoxication, whereas one who refrains from drinking it becomes intoxicated by material illusion. Now actually, the effect of Tulsi leaves is so potent that the Garuda Purana, in the section called Sarodhara, chapter 8, verse 26 says, Akadasi Vratam Gita Gan Gumbu Interesting word. Gangumbu Tulasi Dalam. Vishnu Parambu Namani Marane Mukti Danicha. This is important. Ekadasi, the Bhagavad Gita, the water of goddess Ganga Devi, the leaves of Tulsi Devi, the water from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, and his holy names are 6 things that give liberation at the time of death. Let's repeat that one again. Ekadasi, the Bhagavad Gita, the water of goddess Ganga Devi, the leaves of Tulsi Devi, the water from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, and his holy names are 6 things that give liberation at the time of death. And by Prabhupada's grace, we have all those in our grasp. Now, when we speak about Tulsi leaves, I was reading, it can also mean dry Tulsi leaves. The Padma Purana, in the section called Kriya Yogashara Kanda, chapter 2, says, Ananta, the Lord of the world, abandoned fragrant flowers like mandaras, China rose, kundas, a type of jasmine, and lotuses, but gladly accepts even dry Tulsi leaves, which are full of virtues and ensure the destruction of sins. Which are full of virtues and ensure the destruction of sins. And Shastra states that even if one doesn't have fresh or dry Tulsi leaves, one can use the wood of Tulsi for worshipping the Lord in his deity form. Where is that confirmed? Again, Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 7, verse 263. It's actually quoting from the Vayu Purana. Tulasi rahitam pujam na grinati sadahari kastam vasparsha yettatra no chetan namato jayet. The Supreme Lord Hari never accepts anyone's worship without Tulsi Devi. Therefore, if Tulsi Devi's leaves are not available, then one can use Tulsi Devi's wood to touch the Supreme Lord's body. And if even Tulsi Devi's wood is not available, one should simply chant the name of Tulsi Devi while worshipping Lord Hari. And even if Tulsi Devi's wood is not available, one should chant the name of Tulsi Devi while worshipping Lord Hari. It also states, Yohi Bhagavato Bhutpa Kalo Tulasi Chandanam Nar Payati Sada Vishnur Nasa Bhagavato Nara. In the age of Kali, a devotee of the Lord cannot be considered an actual devotee if he does not offer Tulsi Devi's wood paste. This is an interesting verse. If he does not offer Tulsi Devi's wood paste to Lord Vishnu. That's from Hari Bhakti Vilas 6, 3-6. Actually, even the earth, or they say clay, that Tulsi Devi grows in is considered all auspicious. Hari Bhakti Vilas 4-243, therein it's stated, Tulasi mritika pundram talate yasya drishyate dehamna sprishati papam kriya manas to narada. O Narada Muni, one whose forehead is decorated with tilak made of clay from the base of a Tulsi plant cannot come under the influence of sinful reactions, even if he commits sin repeatedly by force of circumstances. Even if he commits sin repeatedly by force of circumstances. So yes, we have Gopi Chandan from Dwarka, we have the mud of Radhakund, and here it says we could take the clay or the dirt from the base of a Tulsi plant and use it as tilak. Very auspicious. Hare Krishna. So, I'd like to finish today with a pastime from the Tulasi Mahatmya, which itself is from the 18th chapter of Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, which many of you know is part of the Narada Purana. So very bona fide. Wonderful pastime to finish today. Just glorifying Tulsi Devi. So once there was a somewhat materialistic Brahmin who, desiring to collect vegetables and rice, left his home at dawn with a sickle and a rope, it's described. And roaming here and there, he came to a large, auspicious forest of Tulsi trees. Again, we hear a forest of Tulsi trees. And it's described the forest resembled an emerald adorned with gold, and due to the tenderness of the plants, it was extremely pleasing to the mind just to look at it. And surveying the forest, he thought, these Tulsi plants can provide food for both men and cows, so I will collect some of them and carry them inside a bundle of straw. I will also collect some for my neighbor, who could use the leaves of the Tulsi plant in service to his Vishnu deity. Now it's written that by destiny, that was the very moment in his life that he was supposed to die. His life was supposed to come to an end. And thus, unknown to him, the servants of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, were already approaching a nearby poisonous snake and instructing it as follows. O ferocious black snake, bite this brahmana immediately. This materialistic twice-born deserves to be bitten by you, but bite him quickly, for if he should touch Tulsi Devi before you do, we shall have no power over him. So, thus instructed, this poisonous black snake quickly approached this twice-born farmer. But by chance or good fortune, the farmer did happen to touch Tulsi Devi inside the bundle of straw. He was kind of arranging it all, just before the snake was poised to bite him. Now what's more, the plot thickens in a wonderful way. Because of his having touched Tulsi Devi, Sudarshan Chakra, the disc weapon of Lord Vishnu, suddenly appeared for the protection of the brahmana. Although it's described, it remained invisible. So as the brahmana left this amazing Tulsi forest, the snake quickly hid inside this heavy bundle of straw that he was carrying. Now, while reading this the other day, I thought it was interesting that the Sudarshan disc appeared so quickly to protect him. But then I found a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that relates to the same. Seek and ye shall find. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:8-13. Quote, with great pleasure. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees, who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshan disc to protect them. At once took up his Sudarshan disc to protect them. And it's also stated in Brahma Vaivarta Purana 4:25-59. Lord Krishna, who dearly loves his devotees, always protects them, both great and small, with his Sudarshan chakra. And I was also thinking that it's quite amazing that just by touching Tulsi Devi, the Brahmana warded off death. But then I read in the Avanti Kanda section of the Skanda Purana, did a lot of research, as quoted also in Hari Bhakti Vilas 9:104, the following. Just by looking at you, Tulsi Devi, all sins become removed. Just by touching you, one's body becomes pure. By praying to you, all diseases practically become removed. If one waters you or makes you wet, the fear of Lord Yamaraj, death personified, is destroyed. Just by planting or transplanting you, one comes closer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If someone offers your leaves to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, you award that person liberation as well as loving devotion to him, Krishna. Great verse. So, as the Brahmana left the Tulsi forest, the servants of Yamaraj followed him, waiting for the occasion when he would present the foliage of the Tulsi plant to his neighbor. And several hours later, when the brahmana arrived at his neighbor's house, the Yamadutas secretly entered the house and warned that neighbor not to interfere with their duties. They told him that after the brahmana put down the straw grass bundle to take out the tulsi plants he was bringing him, the snake would bite the brahmana, causing his death. Then they would take him to the abode of Yamaraj. But at that point, the brahmana's neighbor, who it's described was compassionate by nature, began considering ways to save the brahmana. And in a mood of compassion, he said to the Yamadutas, "O you generous persons, out of kindness to me have revealed the danger of the poisonous snake biting the brahmana. But this brahmana must be bringing the auspicious tulsi plant to me so I may offer her leaves and service to my deities. So I beg you, please don't harm him." So at that point, the messengers of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, they actually considered his request for a moment. And then they said, "Within an hour and a half from now, his duration of life will be complete, and he will have to die by snake bite. Only the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always longs for receiving offerings of food decorated with the leaves of Tulsi Devi, can protect him. Lord Vishnu always dwells in a forest of Tulsi trees, thinking, when will some fortunate person offer me just one leaf from one of these auspicious trees?" If this brahmana were to enter such a forest of Tulsi trees and offer a leaf of Tulsi Devi to the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lord Vishnu, then the Lord's personal weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, would at that very moment certainly protect him. Therefore, we have no power over anyone, pious or sinful, who worships Lord Hari with Tulsi leaves. At the time of death, such a person is carried away by the messengers of Lord Vishnu. But for now, if you intend for this twice-born to be protected, then you yourself should at once perform worship of Tulsi Devi on his behalf, and thus extend the duration of his life. So hearing this, the Brahman's neighbor very carefully and conscientiously worshipped a Tulsi plant. And as he was doing so, the Brahmana happened to enter his home with this present of the leaves of the Tulsi tree that he collected for his neighbor. And at that very moment, both the Brahmana and his neighbor, from different parts of the room, could see the servants of Yamaraj and the snake quickly making their exit from that house. It's described they ran away. The servants of Yamaraj and the snake quickly left that place. Hare Krishna. Then the Brahmana's neighbor informed the Brahmana of all that had happened, and they decided that they would go on pilgrimage to a temple of Lord Vishnu and worship him for the pleasure of Srimati Tulsi Devi. Hare Krishna. Nice pastime. So I want to actually conclude today with quotes from a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to my god sister Govindadasi. We quoted some of this letter in the previous class, but this letter is dated April 7th, 1970. My dear Govindadasi, I am so glad to learn that Srimati Tulsi Devi has favored you so much. If you can actually grow this Tulsi plant, and I'm sure you will do it, then you must know it for certain that your devotion for Krishna is testified. I was very much anxious to introduce this worship of Tulsi amongst our society's members, but it has not become successful until now. Therefore, when I hear that you have got this opportunity, my pleasure does not have any bounds. My pleasure does not have any bounds. Tulsi leaf is very, very dear to Vishnu. All Vishnu-tattva deities require a profuse amount of Tulsi leaves. Lord Vishnu likes garlands of Tulsi leaves. Tulsi leaves mixed with sandalwood pulp and placed on the lotus feet of the Lord is the topmost worship. Lotus leaves mixed with sandalwood pulp and placed on the lotus feet of the Lord is the topmost worship. But we must be very careful, for that Tulsi leaves cannot be placed on the feet of anyone except Lord Vishnu and his different forms. Tulsi leaves cannot be placed even on the lotus feet of Radharani or on the lotus feet of the spiritual master. It is entirely reserved for being placed on the lotus feet of Krishna. We can, however, place Tulsi leaves in the hands of Radharani for being placed on the lotus feet of Krishna, as you have seen on the Govinda album. Hare Krishna. Thank you once again, Srila Prabhupada, for instructing us in the science of devotional service. So, thank you, Prabhus. I believe we have enough information and glorification of Srimati Tulsi Devi for 2 more classes. I think we'll get 4 classes out of this amazing subject matter. Her Divine Grace, Srimati Tulsi Devi. So I hope these classes are inspiring you in your appreciation and your affection and ultimately your love for Srimati Tulsi Devi. We'll finish here. See you next Friday. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavan Eshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Gauranitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Pimanandi Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Sharm. Glories to Sri Prabhupada.